Lisa Feely, your host for An Accountable Catholic. Thank you again for joining me tonight. And we have a guest that I'd like to introduce and tell a little bit about him. And he is going to have some really good things to say in our discussion tonight. And tonight's discussion, let me just start there, is about the cancel culture and being woke and how these impact us as Christians and Catholics. So Daniel, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We have Daniel Bennett with us.
Thanks, Lisa. I'm glad to be here.
Terrific.
Looking forward to it.
Tell a little bit about your background, and then I'm going to have you share your journey with our listeners. So Daniel's a friend of mine. He's a program manager. He's been a project manager. He's worked in the Navy, and he's had a lot of ups and downs, but a trooper for sure. And he's up in Wisconsin. So here we sit in Carolina Catholic Radio on the Carolinas, nice warm area. And I know Wisconsin's going through nice cold. So I can call you a cheesehead because I know you all know. So Daniel, share your journey, if you will, with our listeners and introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'd love to. And you're right about the cold. It's been bone chilling around here. So in the negative 15, 20. So yeah.
You can keep it.
We've sent it over to you. So just a small town kid, right? Grew up in rural Wisconsin, enlisted in the Navy, worked hard enough, got a commission, medically retired, kind of forced out, with some of that stuff we were talking about a minute ago. And then I became a program manager, through the skills and some of the things that I was able to do. And then now I'm just living life like everybody else, trying to make sure that I do what's right, for the right reasons.
Well, and obviously just starting Harvard courses and stuff. So don't let him fool you, anybody listening. He's a really bright guy. So, well, you and I, Daniel, we've had some interesting discussions, and that's what we wanted to share with our viewers tonight. And not to get political. I mean, this is the part that's so challenging in our country right now, right? I mean, everything is politicized. And it's like, that is not the purpose. That is not what we were called as Christians. And again, this show is about being accountable. So tonight's discussion is about how do we address as Christians, what are we supposed to understand when lots of people in our country, right, are talking about a cancel culture and they're talking about being woke. But there's 140 million of us Christians, right, that call ourselves Christians. So what I'd like to do is all kind of share what I'm thinking and share with our audience what I understand from research, what the cancel culture means and what being woke means. But I'll start by saying, and I'd like for you to chime in on this, do you kind of agree with me or disagree with me that it's time to just get rid of these words? They're very negative in my mind.
I agree. I absolutely agree. Putting labels on people. I'm father of four, and I have two girls and two boys. And if my boys are going to grow up, and the pretext to anything is just he did great, but it's never that. It's this person did great, and my girls, I got to teach. I don't want to have to teach them that this female X or girl X. I want them to understand that they get the same credit for doing the same things. And so I absolutely agree with you. It's time that we understand the context and the value of what we're saying.
And I just think, from my perspective too, and again, in light of being accountable and being Christians, I think we're called to a moral obligation of seeing everyone as equal, right? Stop seeing people, like you just said, stop identifying people in different things. I mean, I don't say, boy, that's a, white man with a plaid shirt with dark, I mean, it's, and you don't see me as a female, boy, that female succeeded at this or whatever. It's just that, and with the cancel culture, what the cancel culture is doing is it's really wanting to erase what we've done wrong. We've definitely had some problems in our country, right? I mean, you were in the Navy, our history well, you're a true patriot as well. But, obviously we've had some bad times in our country, but is the answer to take that culture and really cancel it, right? Is it to pretend that didn't happen? And then we'll address being woke a little bit later. What do you think, or what say you, my friend Daniel, on this topic as a Christian?
Well, first and foremost, I don't ever get anything right the first time. So if I don't learn from it, then I'm not going to get very much better. How do you get better if you don't understand where you've come from? And right. I mean, the we do this in our government, our country, the Navy specifically, all these, if we didn't learn from the wars that we've had or the things that we've done or the mistakes that we've made, then there's nowhere for us to get better. And I think that's where I'm from. I mean, when I did my JPME or joint, professional military education at the Navy War College, and that was the hardest class I've ever done, by the way. But it's because you have to go back and you have to learn the things that got us to where we are, so that we don't continue to make those same mistakes over and over again. It really, when in the grand scheme of strategy, you got to learn.
So what do you say to someone to try to be more inclusive? What do you say to someone says, well, that statue just makes me feel terrible, and it reminds me of what a terrible time we were in our country, or someone was very, it's very racist, or the person's very sexist, or whatever the situation is? What would you tell someone about pulling down statues or taking stuff out of museums?
I'm not a fan of it. I don't think that's the way to go. I think we can learn from that statue or that reason or that era or that thing or that piece of art or what it may be. That statue doesn't define us as a country. That statue reminds us where we've been and how we've gone so far from where we were. Yeah, we're not there yet, and we got a long ways to go. And I don't think there's anybody arguing that there's a long ways to go. We're not where we were, and that's most important, because
we've come a long way, right? Yeah. We have come a long way.
Not fast enough by any means, and it needs to go faster. And I'm not saying we're there yet, but we're progressing in the right direction, and we do need to get there a little quicker.
When I think of it in the terms of, to me, being a Catholic and you being a Christian, is God really doesn't. I mean, God doesn't want us being divided, right? God doesn't want us being miserable and fighting with each other. I don't think I've ever seen, at least in my 57 years of living, our country more divided than it is now. And I think so much of it is because we use these terms, and you say, oh, well, those terms are meant to be more inclusive, but they're not. Okay, they're not. They're very divisive words, I think. So when you're trying to cancel, whether some people are looking at something saying, well, that person actually did a lot of good in his life, right? Where none of us are perfect. So, I mean, God knows that. But like you said, I think we're taught through lessons and we're taught through history. So, to me, when I try to look at the actual action that we're trying to achieve, using that, the talents God gave us, right? And so when I look at the cancel culture, what someone's calling a cancel culture, first of all, again, I hate using, or I dislike using words, but it's such a big issue, right? It's all over social media. Your children are probably hearing it. So what are you trying to teach them? Let me ask that as a parent. I mean, my kids are 25 and 26, kind of all grown up. What do you try to teach your children about something they see that you do disagree with, right? You want to teach them from that, or how do you go about?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about that. First and foremost, it's my responsibility to make sure that my children don't go out to this world and see people that in different lights, or however we want to call it. I mean, and I learned that from the Navy. I didn't come from a diverse background in a small town, but the Navy really woke me up to that and really showed me that we're all people and we're all trying to do good. We all wake up with a goal in the morning to do what's right, to better ourselves or to better other people, or whatever it may be, to treat our neighbors with respect, to treat others the way they want to be treated. We all are not, no person's waking up. And this is what I tell my children. Nobody's waking up in the morning thinking to themselves, I'm here to make Maddie upset today. That's my oldest daughter's name. Or nobody's saying, Connor, it's my turn to make you miserable today. Nobody's
so you're
trying
not
to do that.
Right. No one's intentionally doing anything. Right.
And so I want them to understand, first and foremost, that they have to take somebody else's words, and they are the ones that act on that. Good. And so my son, he loves sloths, right? And actually it was a nickname he got because he's slow, but he's super fast in a lot of things. I mean, smartest kid I've ever met. He's probably smarter than I will ever be. And so he gets a sloth name and he loves it. He embraces it. Right. But other people get a nickname, and they hate it. My son, call him Landon the Lion. And he's like, I'm not Landon the Lion. Okay. We're not going to call you that. But hey, bud, you don't have to react to that. You don't have to react the way that somebody wants you to react. And a lot of times we forget that they're having a bad day. Maybe it's time that we can say, whoa, how can I help you? What can I do?
Right.
Is there something I can do? Lend a hand instead of.
You just brought up something great, though, I want to capture here to remind everyone. We're responsible, right? Be accountable for the way you react, right? And the attitude. Again, we talked earlier on another show we did on a victim mindset. I think that's so much of this cancel culture is that people want to say, well, I want that gone, or I don't want to talk about that, or I don't think it's right to do this because it caused something else. Well, again, that's a blame game, right? So don't worry about what happened 100 years ago, right? What are you concerned about today? How, and you said earlier, how is today impacting you? How does the future impact you? How can we help each other, right? As Christians and as moms and dads, sisters and brothers, how do we help you move forward? And I think that's a great point. So let's stop talking about cancel this, cancel that, the cancel culture, these negative words. Now, I want to switch into the being woke situation because you just said some great stuff. You said, well, the Navy woke me up with this. And so some people might argue, well, see, he had to be awakened or he had to be taught this for sure. But see, let's go more positive. Sure, we all need to learn, but I don't need to be woke. That basically is telling me that I'm already ignorant, which is already a negative. And so now you're putting me on the defense, right? So why can't we flip this around and say, what does God really want from us? What is our purpose in life? And, just do the right thing, right? We're Christians, so we know what to do. We're supposed to follow God's way. And you and I chatted a little earlier, we're all made in God's image, right? So I don't remember God saying that he doesn't like, whether you're, Asian or African-American or Italian. I mean, I'm Italian, you're male, I'm female. I mean, he doesn't identify like that, right? We're all made in his image.
Right. And I think I even said this in my studies, and I'm by no means an expert in this, but in my studies and in my readings, I haven't seen it called out that way either, in the Bible by any means. It doesn't say, this Black man, this Asian man, this white man.
Right.
And so I haven't, and maybe I don't want to, I'm not ignorant to life and I'm not ignorant to other people, and things are different and people are different but we're all people.
That's right. We're all in this together is my way of looking at it. And we need to help each other. Right.
But how do we keep going forward and how do we be better at what we're doing? Well, first it starts at home. It really does. It starts at home and the mentality and what we teach our kids and what we tell our kids and how they're going to react to it.
Absolutely.
I said at the beginning, I don't get anything right the first time. I tell my kids the same thing. I'm not going to get it right the first time, and you're not going to agree with me in everything I do.
Right. Well, when we come back, we will continue the discussion with some of the stuff that's happened in our country lately. And again, what are we going to do to try to move it forward without becoming more divided? So we'll take a quick break here, and then we'll come right back with Daniel and continue discussing how do we get past this as Christians, and how do we teach, and you're doing a great job, Daniel, how do we teach our children and the future generations to really become much more positive and inclusive without using divisive theories or words. Thank you very much, and we'll be right back.
Carolina Catholic Radio is excited to announce an alliance with Lisa Feely, author of An Accountable American. Her new book offers a blueprint to every person who wants to embrace how to be accountable. Learn how positively to impact your life and the lives of anyone around you. 50% of the book profits will be donated to a local 501c3 Catholic charity, including Carolina Catholic Radio and those affiliated with us. 2020 was a tough year for many people. Consider donating to charity by buying a copy of An Accountable American, just $20 on our website. Achieving accountability is a great way to start the new year. If you want to learn how to achieve enlightenment, peace, and prosperity, this is a great start. Now back to an Accountable Catholic radio show.
Okay, we're back from break and back with Daniel to continue discussing what we can do as Christians, moms, dads, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, whatever our role may be, even as friends, to help everyone, help each other, not to try to play this blame game, not to come up with divisive terminology or theories, because I just don't think that moves us forward. What say you, Daniel?
I have to agree with you, Lisa. I really feel that this, well, like you said, this blame game kind of goes back into the victim mindset. Then we start forgetting our past, and we don't go back and look and say, hey, look, we identified these issues many times. Now we have to do something, and we're in this state where we do have to do something. We have to. There's nothing we can do. We can no longer not do something.
Right.
However, over time, we have been getting better. And I mentioned at the very beginning, we got to get faster at getting better.
Right.
Because what we do today becomes yesterday, and then it shows up again in our future. And we got to get to that point where we're happy of what we're doing today, so that our future is brighter for our children. My children are going to be in this world for a long time.
Right. Now, don't you think I think anyway, and I'd like your thoughts on this, isn't it about parents and those of us, those adults should be helping the younger generation. And I think the younger generation is already better at it. I mean, they're already much more inclusive. I think they're much more accepting. I never taught my children to look at, again, height, color, weight, nothing. I mean, that just wasn't even part of our discussion being Christians. So I think we should deal more with facts versus a lot of the emotion, right? So we all know stuff happened that isn't right? You look at the incidences over the last summer, and some bad stuff that happened in our country. No doubt there are some bad apples, right? But that doesn't make the whole group or the whole lot bad.
I agree again here in this situation. And you said emotion, and that's the first thing that we get to. And you're right. I think we have to understand and feel that emotion, and then do positive things with it and go in the right direction. A lot of things that you're seeing right now that are getting the most attention, I don't think are sustainable into the future if we're going to do it that way. How many lives are being ruined because of emotion, and I feel upset at this group of people, so I'm going to go take it out on this other group of people. That doesn't make sense to me.
Right. And because one bad apple in that bunch, so I'm just going to throw the whole baby out with the bathwater, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, and you're right, and that's kind of, it's so hard as an American, even just today, right? Because I live, when I enlisted, I took an oath, the similar, almost exactly the same when I commissioned, and then I believe in that, and I believe in our country and the values and the morals and the document itself, and we have to remember that we support and defend the Constitution and the government, and that's what we're looking for. That document is meant to be changing, and it needs to change, and it needs to adapt. It's supposed to be hard. It's not supposed to be easy to make it changed, but that's what we're doing. Even our president's job is to defend, support and defend the structure and the Constitution, but the structure and the hierarchy of what we're and who we are, and the identity.
Now, is it fair to say, I love your Navy background. Don't you feel like the police are one example in our country where, again, people are saying, well, look, the whole system, just throw the whole thing out, we're starting over. But to me, in the Navy, you took an oath. I think police officers take an oath very much similar, just as an example of discussing what we're discussing tonight. And I don't think that 95 or 98% of all police officers, I don't think go out there saying, well, I'm not going to come to Daniel's home because, he's wearing a plaid shirt. I'm not going to go to so-and-so's house because that's a female in there or something. What are your thoughts on that?
I feel that's tough to even to even talk about one, because in the Navy, there's a bond, and I'm certain that in the police force, there's another one. I've not been a police officer,
Right.
first responder situation, but
Right.
I'm imagining that the bond is similar, and they'll try to do what's right, and like you said, 99,000 out of 99,001 are good, and that
Right.
one that is bad, that does something wrong,
Right.
well, he needs to get fired and held accountable.
Right.
And if it's a training or tactic issue with that organization, then they need to address it. But I think what we're seeing now is one bad apple, or somebody getting through that shouldn't have. And in the Navy, we deal with it too. The person to my right and to my left, well, the person to my left could be a female. Okay, no, that's not what we see her as. She's a sailor, and she's next to me. She's a sailor, and on my right, that person could have been poor, living under a bridge. No, that's a sailor. I'm a sailor. That person's a sailor, and this person's a sailor. So we're all sailors.
Right. That's excellent. No, I think, again, as Christians, we're born in the image of God. He gave us our talents, right? And we're never going to have, and that's the part that I try to explain when I'm mentoring others, is you're never all going to have, you can have equal access, but you're not going to all have equal outcomes, right? Your life's going to be different than my life, and what you choose to do. And while we can all try to do as much as we can to make sure everyone has as best equal access, that's why we have laws in our land, right? That's why we do what we do and set up the structure, like you said. But I think what we have to do in the bottom line for me, and I really appreciate you talking with us tonight, because this isn't a fun topic, it's a challenging topic, and it can really divide people. And so what do we do as Christians? I think that we have to really look at God's word. And I think we have to know that we're automatically born to be inclusive. That's a given. We should realize that we're supposed to, just like God told us, love thy neighbor, right? Help your brother. And that's, I don't remember him, like you said, in the Bible I'm reading, which is, there's a one only Bible and there's only one truth. I don't remember anybody saying, well, don't, love that person, just love this person, or
Absolutely, and I 100% agree. And this is a tough topic, right? Because you're right, there is so many different ways and avenues for people, and that's what I enjoy, helping others a lot. And one of the things I like to do is, if anybody needs a resource, right, and needs to be connected, I like to help connect them to where they need to be connected. And learning and being with people, I learn so much from other people. It's maybe my personality is an introvert, but I learn so much, and I get to see that. I love to watch people too, people watch, and you see that interaction. Very few of the interactions you see are negative in a day. A lot of positive interactions, but and you're right, at equal access and equal opportunity. First, we got to start believing in ourselves.
Right.
You mentioned at the beginning that I was accepted into Harvard, and I would have never, ever, a small town kid from rural Wisconsin, would have never first thought I could ever even have a chance, and probably would not have ever applied with the intent of getting in, even in my adult life. I just didn't think, right? Because it's a great school. I mean, it is the best. And the reason they're the best is because they see outside of that box too. So, I'm grateful that and humble that they were even considering me. But it was another wake up call for me. I was able to understand what they were looking
But
for.
my guess is, I'm going to step back and talk about accountability. My guess is you had a plan. And you executed that plan, being a Navy guy. I know you had to do that. And that got you a step closer to your dream, right?
It did. And I admitted it in my admission paper. I said that I made this mistake, like we were talking about. We do make mistakes, but we have to learn from them, and we have to pick ourselves up. And right now, today, like we've been talking all day, we're in a position in our country where it's rough. It's divided. And how we come back from this and how we move forward as a country together because it's only one way, and how we get to where we need to be is going to define the next 100 years or 1,000 years, whatever it ends up being in our country. We have to look at that and say, yeah, we have a problem.
Right.
Because
and I pray, well, and you said it well earlier, you can have emotion and passion, right? That can be a good thing, but we have to direct it toward accountability, and you have to hold yourself accountable first. And to me, we have to stop this emotion that has no logic behind it. And we have to turn back to what God's asked us to do. And if you're being an accountable Catholic or an accountable Christian, then you're not going to, you just don't want to buy into this negative, divisive type theories or words, whether it's cancel culture, whether it's being woke, whether it's, privilege. I just don't like any of those words, because I think it automatically puts a negative light in a very beautiful country where, while we do have our problems, just like we as humans do, we've come a long way, right? We've come a long way, and we have a bright future ahead of us, and we've got some wonderful younger generations, your children, my children, that we hope, get better and better, right? And it's not going to help them, I don't believe, to eliminate statues or to claim something is just so terrible and horrible. And, now we see it with tech, right? Erasing what free speech. I mean, we just can't get to that point, or we're going to lose ourselves pretty quickly.
I agree. And I keep saying that a lot today. I agree, but I really do. And one of the things you mentioned earlier is how you raise your kids. It's not the school's job to make sure that they raise my children. It's not their job to teach my children. They're there to give my kids the knowledge. They're going to come home, and I have to make sure my kids practice that knowledge. So that goes into the next piece of that, where I have to teach my kids, and that's what I said at the beginning. I have to teach them what it's like, what it means to be accountable, what it means to be responsible, what it means to do what is right for doing the sake of doing what's right. Someone might slight you. That's okay. They might go and talk about your reputation and you think it's good. That's okay too, because they're going to do that. Let them.
Right.
How we react to that situation is what really gets to us. And recently I've had situations like that where I'm in a small community again, right? I'm in a small town in Wisconsin, and part of, sometimes you feel like you're being attacked at a character level, but it's just hearsay until you hear it from somebody, there's no reason. They're trying to get you to react. And right now we're living that. Everybody wants you to react. Well, take a moment, step back, feel the emotion, feel the pain of others, and then come up with a plan and move forward.
Good. Yeah. And I always say, I'm a Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt. When what that is, what that references is a thing called Lean and Six Sigma, which is process efficiencies. And I know in the Navy you have processes, so what we teach is, look, A plus B plus C can always equal C or D, if you put it in the right order, right? So if we can be methodical. So in the Navy, for example, they teach you how to make your bed, right? They teach you how to wear your, which suit you're going to wear and all this. And the reason for that is because we can take some emotion out of it and hold ourselves accountable, and then have a metric. And if you can, you really can't succeed at something you're never going to be able to measure. So I'm going to recommend, as a Six Sigma Master Black Belt, hold people accountable, put the processes in place, and then both reward or let them know if they're coming up short, right? You got to be told both. You got to be told the good and the bad.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So that you improve. And so I'll leave it at this, by erasing our bad, we're not helping anybody.
No, we're not.
So.
We're not. We can't.
Well, listen, thank you so much. Great input. Great time tonight. Thank you so much for joining us, Daniel. Again, great seeing you. And I hope everyone in our audience enjoyed tonight's show. Again, glad to have you at An Accountable Catholic. And we are 5 o'clock every Thursday night. Hope to see you next week. Make it a good week, and God bless.